Alright, welcome to the Common Vlog. It is currently Monday. I'm recording this a while after Fire from 3. Both should be up around the same time when I toss them up on YouTube, but gonna be a long day. Definitely gonna be a long day. Or not a long day, long podcast. But we don't have much to talk about. Nothing really happened this week. Just wait. Tomorrow's June 1st. Just wait. The news is gonna flow in. I'm gonna miss so much I'm gonna have so much to cover, hopefully, next week. But we got something to talk about, thankfully. I will leave the only Eagles related things to the end because I want to talk about some things that are more general NFL. First, Rodgers saga. I never really talked about it. Well, Rodgers looks like he's probably staying in Green Bay. I'd say he stays in Green Bay. And I never really discussed a lot of in-depth into this, but hey, today's the day. And this is a situation that when I was talking to people here and there in the beginning, I'm like, it's public ownership. They gotta vote. There's absolutely no way they allow Rodgers to go. I honestly don't think they'd move him. If they do, well, I'm wrong, but hopefully not. I don't think they want a second-year Jordan Love, no matter how much he's progressed, to just get tossed in. Not only that, I'd argue Rodgers should at least win something in Green Bay that isn't a NFC Championship exit. Not a shot at Green Bay, not a shot at Rodgers. Just they haven't really built the best team around him in general sometimes. Though they've had some great players on there. Jordy Nelson. But honestly, I don't know. I think it was kind of joking about that little situation, but everyone's always like, "Oh, well, they were ranked blah blah blah, and they gave him the best offense, and this and that and the other thing." And I'm like, just because you give someone the best offense doesn't mean that they can't get beat by a good defense. And that's where your defense would have to step up. It's a both sides of the ball game. Wins and losses are a team stat, not a quarterback stat. I tell people this all the time, and some don't listen. Wins is a team stat. And so are losses in the NFC Championship. And Rodgers has had, 3 of those at least? 2 or 3 at least? But that's a team stat, and that's a team effort, and I think that's a team loss, not just on his back, but the team in general. Not only that, you can tell me all you want, yeah, they've had a number 1 offense, or they've had a top 10 offense last year, but how long's Matt LaFleur been in the league? Not very long as a head coach, and not as of that squad. So I'd argue, well, it all depends on how your coaching staff, your head coach, and all of that settle in when a new regime comes in. I mean, you can do as good as you want with a new regime and great players, but that doesn't mean the new regime's good. But I guarantee 10 years down the road, we'll really hear about some of the stuff on the inside that's happened. And not only that, this is majorly about what Rodgers wants and doesn't want on the team, which is fair. I think it's 100% fair to Rodgers, and he should get that. Because he's helped you get to multiple NFC championships. You should give him at least somewhat of an opinion. Brady has an opinion in Tampa. Let's see. I guarantee Peyton had kind of a say in his operation or in things in Denver and Indiana. Indianapolis. I mean, we've heard stories of stuff like he was a coach on the field and at times. Like the story told by the Peck McAfee show about a young player that he told to not play for snaps or a couple snaps in a drive because he tried to catch a ball one-handed that he could have caught two-handed. But and I wholeheartedly think Peyton's one of the few people that could have gone to Jim Irsay and said, "I want this done. Or, I want this looked at least." Brady, I guarantee he has a say in Tampa. Russ got a say in Seattle. I'd say he at least got a bit of a say. And there's a couple other quarterbacks that I think you could argue that may have a say in personnel just because that's the offense they're running. Rodgers deserves it as much as the next guy. He does. Maybe he doesn't deserve it as much as a Tom Brady, but that's because Tom Brady, it's Tom Brady. But he deserves it as much as any other guy, almost any other guy in the league. At this point, you may want to give it to him just because. But honestly, I think he deserves somewhat of a say. Somewhat, keyword. At least. Because I think every quarterback should at least have a bit of a say or a bit of an opinion in something that's going to affect the offense they're running if they're a veteran quarterback. If you're a rookie, yeah, you're probably going to want to more be quiet and play. But if you're someone who's got at least 7 years in the league, you know what you're doing, you've been a starter in one or two places for a long time, you've been playing at an elite level or a great level, like a top 10, 15 or top 10 quarterback, most of your years, you know what you're doing, you've kind of boosted your offense in terms of how good it is in a way or another. He deserves something. He deserves a say. That was the only really unrelated Philly thing or un-Philly related thing I had to talk about. Now, the whole Steven Nelson thing. Now, he liked an NFL rumor tweet of Zach Ertz potentially getting cut. Number one, I don't like NFL rumors because they kind of just guess on some and kind of, I'd argue they probably guess on some, and if they hit, they hit, they don't, they don't. And they say obvious stuff, like for roster cuts and stuff before free agency, obvious stuff that would probably happen. But I 100% say they're not the most, or they're not the best, or not even close to the best source when it comes to NFL stuff. Or NFL moves and everything. But he liked one of those tweets, and he liked something else about him being underrated from a fan. I get it. He wants to come to Philly. But the tweet he liked was about Zach Ertz getting cut. I don't see Zach Ertz getting cut. I see him playing out his contract before he gets cut. Why would you... try not to get into a rant. But you don't cut Zach Ertz when he's got 1 year left on his deal, and you could just literally hang in there and go, we'll give you a year. You can break Carmichael's record. We'll send you off with a hero's goodbye. You can go somewhere else for a couple seasons. Come back here for a day or something and retire. A day contract like teams have done before. And then you can be remembered as a great Eagle, and when we let you go, if you perform well the next season, you get your big payout that you want, and we get to see you potentially succeed. But that would make way more sense to me, because then you're motivating him to get the best out of him, and you're also getting the best for your team, even if that means giving him a bit more snaps over Goddard. At this point, I'd say it could work. I'm not saying it would. I'm not saying it will. Could. But at this point, I'd rather trade him for like a late fifth, early sixth, or a fifth or sixth than just say, you know what, Zach, hit the market. hit the market. We'll get nothing in return for you when we've obviously had offers that we haven't liked, but there's been offers on the table. And we'll take the latter and sign Steven Nelson. Why? 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 Why would you do that? Why? You've obviously had offers in the past. If you still got some offers on the table or an offer on the table for a pick or maybe a pick and a low-level player or a depth-level player or a role player, take it if it's in a place that you need it. And then go, Nelson, you know what? The cap space we have left from the Ertz deal, which could be around, let's say your new player brings in about 1 to 1.5 million in cap, cuts off from around 8 million. So at the least around 6.5 million. Go, hey, 6.5 for a year or six. Just give him some money for 3 years. Howie will backload the contract if it's a couple years and add dummy years, because that's what Howie does and pushes stuff down the road. Although it depends on how you see it. I see it as sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. It depends on the situation. It depends on if you screw yourself over. But Howie screwed himself over sometimes with stuff like that. Malcolm Jenkins, Alshon Jeffrey. We took a massive cap hit from Malcolm last year. Great idea, Howie. Great idea. But at this point, I'd say you're better off getting anything you can for Zach than just letting him walk. You are. I would take at least a decent pick that could pan out for Ertz, because you're at least getting somewhat of his worth instead of nothing. But that's beyond me. I totally don't know what I'm saying, but whatever, it is what it is. I'm not a GM for a reason, I guess, but sometimes I can think smarter than ours. I mean, he said it's an average offseason in my grading system of a C minus. I will stick to that. I said draft was a C minus. I will give the overall offseason a C, actually. Average. Show me something better than this. Show me something that will make me put you up to a B minus or a B plus or a B. Show me. And getting rid of Zach Ertz for nothing does not show me that. That drops you down to a C minus in my book. But we all have our own grade on the off season. I think I've been a little bit more harsh than others. But it all depends on how you look at the off season, how you view everything. It's all your opinion. You can have your opinion. Whatever. It is what it is. I have my opinion. You have yours. I've said this before. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. I honestly hope we can get something for Ertz. But if that market fully dries up, then I can see cutting him. Well, this is going to be a really short one this week. Julio. I can't wait to talk about this. Ugh. No. If anybody asked me right now, would you want Philly on the roster, or would you want Julio on the roster Philly has right now? No. I'm not taking that. I'm not taking a Julio Jones who could potentially fall off a cliff on a team with no experienced receivers and no real and an unexperienced quarterback. I get it. Hurts, you can say he's as good as whatever you think, but inexperience is going to play a bit of a role in this season for everybody. From the backup running backs, to the wide receivers, to the backup tight ends, to the quarterback. And you can argue and you can just try to dismember my argument all you want. You can say I'm wrong. But I've been saying this for months now. Inexperience could be the downfall of a team, and it would definitely be a downfall of the Philadelphia Eagles if they let it become this. And you also have a first year. Here's my thing: with the people expecting us to win more than 500 or .500, this is a first year coaching staff with a second year quarterback who hasn't played a full season, no matter how good he is. A wide receiver core with the oldest guy being Greg Ward at, 25? 26? And he's had, 4 years, and he hasn't started any of those 4 years, like a full starting season? Because he was like an in-and-out start. He was a borderline starter at times in Philly. He was never a full-time starter in my eyes. And you've got so much experience with a lot of first and second year guys there. And the third, too. And then you're also going to tell me you have inexperience. I wouldn't call Miles an experience, but I'd say he doesn't have the most experience or the best experience you'd look for in a running back. But that's just me. But depending on who they put in the backfield behind him, there could be nothing in terms of experience behind him, depending on how that pans out. There could be something, but there also could be nothing. And then you've got a tight end core that, if Ertz goes, Goddard, who is the only experienced one there. That's it. 2 converts. I wouldn't say projects. The converts are projects. I'd say 2 low-level guys that you're trying to develop. Developmental guys. And then Jack Stahl, a UDFA. No experience if you decide to get rid of Ertz. Nobody really good, so I'd say bring back a Joshua Perkins just to fill that role for a year till you figure out what you're going to do. But I think piecing Julio together with this team is like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole in terms of this offense and getting success in general, not just Julio. It's not going to work out. I get it does bring experience, and that's I've preached all the time. We need an experienced receiver, but I don't think Julio's that guy. Not only that, he wants to go to a winning team and atmosphere. Well, we're not going to be that good this year. I've seen people put us at 10 wins, 9 wins. I'm like, how about an over-under of 6? How about that? That's where I see this team. Over-under 6. And by mid-season, I'd probably tell you I'm taking the under. Predicting this now, and I guarantee going into what? I'll go into between week 8 and week 9. And I will give you my prediction for over-under 6 wins. And I'm probably going to tell you under. Not only that, I can almost guarantee we walk away with 2 losses versus the Chiefs and the Bucks right now. Unless something changes with this Philly team, or everyone decides to go off at once, and I don't think that's going to happen. But Julio, again, it's like trying to fix. Actually, no, it's not trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It's trying to play chess when everyone else is playing checkers. And like I said about this offseason, how he's trying to play 3D chess while everyone else is over here playing checkers, and he's playing 3D chess against himself. That's been this offseason to me. Baffling moves, building from the trenches. Because having a number 2 corner doesn't matter. And having an experienced receiver doesn't matter. And I don't know. I will admit a young team does come with a lot of drive and a lot of creativity, but that could also mean too much creativity, leading to just overextending yourself. Really, is the way I kind of say it right now. Although I wouldn't be 100% sure if that's the right word, but I just don't think this is not even close to the right situation to bring him in. It's not. But you put him on a team like, I was talking with somebody about this. Imagine him on the Bills. That would be dangerous. You've already got Beasley, who's like your Edelman type guy who can hurt you from anywhere. You don't really have a big jump ball guy. I don't think one since Kelvin Benjamin. I would say I don't even know if Kelvin Benjamin really was a jump ball receiver. He was just more of a big tight end. You really haven't had a jump ball receiver in a while. I think they could use that. Or imagine you. I would hate to see him on the Bucks. I would hate to see him on the Chiefs. But those are two teams that would be contending just because he's an old veteran, and they're in win now mode. Or at least the Bucks are. Chiefs, I could argue they're both win now and not win now because they have a lot of future with them. But it all depends on the way you look at it. I can see both sides of that argument for the Chiefs. But in the end, I'm just sitting here going, well, watch him go to the Titans, and whoever faces them has to face not only Derrick Henry, who stiff-armed Josh Norman's soul out of Buffalo, and put him on the 50-yard line with random family in the stands, and then you got to deal with Julio, and if Hollywood Brown has a breakout season, has like a big season. That would be dangerous. That would be a dangerous offense. Because not only do you have to stop Henry, you have to stop Julio, and then you potentially forget AJ Brown or Hollywood Brown if you don't have somebody to cover him, or if you have somebody to cover him, and you potentially forget, you're screwed. That would be a very dangerous combo. I would hate to run into that Tennessee buzzsaw. And I'd honestly argue that Tannehill is slightly underrated, at least. He was good in Miami. It was just Adam Gase. That says all it needs to. When you're on a team coached by Adam Gase, you expect not to be good. Ask the Jets. Ask Frank Gore. Ask that whole team. Frank Gore said, I'm going to win. No matter what you guys want. I don't care if you guys want to give up. I'm going to win. That's what he did. He won. And then everyone said, maybe they aren't, or maybe they're bad at tanking too. Although tanking really doesn't work in the NFL, I'd say. At least not like other sports. The NFL, it's way harder to hit on draft picks like it is other sports. Not only that, there's less margin for error because you've got to try to keep yourself good among 22 starters. And that's kind of difficult. Not only that, when you rebuild and you build a lot of picks, anybody outside the third round is really a question mark at that point, I'd say, at least slightly. So that's like, oh, we could, and even so, your first, second, and third, you could not hit on. Like, let's say you drafted Ryan Leaf, and then Ryan Leaf just didn't do it. Well, you didn't hit on your first round. It's all about who you get and what you hit on. And for some teams, it's worked out better than others. Miami. But it hasn't worked for teams like the Browns for years till it finally did, and they actually hit on picks and fired Hugh Jackson. But anyways, I'm going to cut to the last piece of info for the common flock. We really haven't had much this week, like I said. We cut Joe Bachie, the linebacker, and signed Willie Henry. Let me check. Yeah, Willie Henry. I said it a bit in my video about it earlier in the week, but honestly, I don't like getting rid of the younger linebacker for a defensive tackle. I still don't. And I'm giving this view mostly because this is me thinking about it a lot and more than when I made that video a little bit after. Honestly, I don't. The more I look at it, the more I don't like it in terms of a linebacker perspective. And I don't necessarily like it in terms of a defensive line perspective, because you're bringing in more camp bodies to contest. When I'd argue if you're keeping 4 or 5, if you're keeping 5, you're keeping Cox, Hargrave, your 2 rookies, and then your last one's a toss-up, which is probably going to be T.Y. McGill, because he's experienced and he's experienced with this defense. Or Hassan Ridgeway. Both of them are going to fight it out for that spot if it happens. Unless our 6th round defensive tackle doesn't make the squad, then I can see both T.Y. and Hassan probably being the favorites, in my opinion, to make the roster. But that's just me. Anyways, this has been the Common Flock. It could have been a way longer podcast than it was, I'd say, but we just don't have anything to talk about this week. We don't. If we had something to talk about, it would be nice, but hey, next week I'll get something to talk about. I will. I hope. I hope something happens. But this has been the Common Flock. Signing out.